the mic? Yeah. And Vinod has braved all of Bharat Mandapam to make it over here. Super excited to do this, what feels now a closed door session after a lot of braving the crowd, but very excited to have so many people in the room, founders, investors. The session is Founders and Funders, India's AI capital ecosystem. And when I think Rajan and I and Mohit and I first thought of this session, we only had one person in mind to kick this off for us, which was Vinod, and he gladly agreed. So very excited to have him here today. Guys, few rules. This is a closed door, off the record session. You can take pictures, but please don't post anything from the session. In case there's media, please, this is, like I said, Chatham House, off the record. Maybe Vinod's available offline after this.
Yeah, anything I say can be on the record. I don't care much.
All right. Sorry, that's an edit. Okay, so Mohit.
Anything I say it can be off the record.
So with that, I'd like to welcome Mohit to kick this off with Vinod. Mohit is MD at Peak 15 Partners.
Oh, this is great. It's great to see the excitement with all the people outside. Just amazing how much interest there is in a subject nobody had heard about 5 years ago.
AI can solve anything other than Delhi traffic. So.
Well, AI can solve that too.
Yeah.
It's just we haven't implemented it the right way yet.
There you go. Hey, but before we jump into AI, just want to say on behalf of everyone, just incredible inspiration to the rest of us. You've just done wonders, not just being a founder that we've all looked up to, but then crossed over to the dark side, like I call it, and become an incredibly influential and impactful investor. So you make it hard for the rest of us, but thank you for inspiring.
Well, thank you.
Okay, so we have a good crew. How many founders in the room? If we can just get a read of the room. Wow, a lot of founders.
Awesome.
And how many investors who are willing to put their hands up? It sounds like the same people put their hands up. I don't know if you noticed.
Well, you can be an investor and a founder. The
Yes,
best
yes,
investor
yes,
is somebody who's been a founder.
Okay, I got lots of questions for you, and then we'll open it up to the team as well. But Vinod, we are sitting in Delhi, a city that's very special to you. It's where it started from you, and you're probably sitting at the most important, influential AI conference that India has ever had. And I want to start with that, which is your impression of India's AI sovereign journey, India's strategy to have a bank of GPUs, its own foundational models, clearly at the application layer. Take a step back. You're sitting with Prime Minister Modi, you're sitting with the ministers, and you're trying to opine with them around, what should India's AI strategy be over the next decade?
Well, clearly they're doing a good job. The summit seems to be unbelievably successful. I had one of my nieces wanting to register, and she said 300,000 people registered. She couldn't register, which is surprising that many people interested. So it's very exciting. All the interest will cause more people to participate in the AI economy. So at the policy level, they're doing the right thing. The idea of a sovereign model, and we are investors in Sarvam, is a very good idea. In fact, I've long believed countries should have sovereign AI, and that's why we invest in Sarvam here in India. And we invest in Sakana because Japan should have its own sovereign model, and different countries should have their own models. The small countries, it's very hard to do. But India has done a good job of embracing this idea. Clearly for national defense and cybersecurity and all that, you cannot have foreign models. Every country will want its own models. So sovereign models are important. But I think the most important thing to do with AI is not so much in business. The first applications, and I'll be talking about this in the plenary session on the 19th, is very much, it is possible today and within the next year or two in India to provide a near free AI doctor to every Indian 24/7 as an AI doctor. It's possible to provide every Indian child, all 250 million children in India, an AI personal tutor, that would be far better than if they could afford to pay for a human tutor. Why? Because it can judge a person's level of knowledge, know where the gaps are, and teach at the level of personalization nobody could. Those are two very fundamental things. I was just researching an agronomist. Every farmer in India, small or large, can have an AI agronomist available at the PhD level to them in their locality, speaking their language. If you're in Meghalaya, you can speak Kashi. And know the diseases and crops and pests in that area. So that level of personalization, I've just mentioned three that are absolutely essential, and they should be part of the Aadhaar system, like three, imagine UPI, primary care, AI tutors, AI agronomy agents. Those take care of essential needs for the bottom half of the Indian population. There's people who can afford personal tutors, and frankly, they will have poor education relative to people who use AI tutors for free.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. Vinod, if I may just push on that a little bit, though.
But I want to add one more
Please.
thing. You talked about you can't fix Delhi traffic. That's not true. That's a failure of imagination. We have a company that's building public transit based on self-driving vehicles.
Sure.
The interesting thing about public transit based on self-driving vehicles, it has 10 times the throughput. Why do you have congestion? Because you don't have enough throughput. Passengers per hour, per meter of street width,
Sure.
is how these things are measured. With AI-based public transit pods, service can be like Uber or Ola, on demand. It can be point to point. It can be safe for women even at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And it can be cheaper than today's public transit if you do the math. So these fundamental structural problems in the country can be addressed first before we talk about the business side. And there's lots of business opportunity. I suspect all of you are interested in that. I wrote a document called that I published last month, but I actually wrote it last August on what AI can do for India. I forget the exact title. I can get it to you if you're interested. It is stunning, the level of services that can be done in the next 2-3 years.
Mm.
And then, of course, there's the longer term where, it was in 2008, I looked at the question because my wife was working in education. I asked myself the question, what could you do for medicine or enough doctors in the country? I said, if I personally had $1 trillion to spend, $1 trillion, I could not, to get the doctor-patient ratio the same in India as it is in the US. With $1 trillion and 30 years, I couldn't start enough medical schools, find enough professors for medical schools. It just was not doable. That's why in 2008, I decided the only solution was an AI doctor. That's how I came to this conclusion as I was looking at doing something nonprofit in this country in medicine. And in 2012, I wrote my first blog called Do We Need Doctors? I wrote a second blog called Do We Need Teachers, both in January of 2012 in TechCrunch, so you can find them for the record. So these are massive opportunities. And of course, you probably want to talk about the business side of things.
No, but I agree with you. I think the story of India has been that of access and getting distribution, and the only way you can do it is if you're incredibly low cost, whether it's your mobile phone and lowest data costs in the world, or even at e-commerce, the average ticket sizes that we do e-commerce with in India, and so on and so forth. So I agree with you that technology enables us to serve the next 50 million, the next 100 million, because it allows us to drop the cost.
Well, it's the next 500, 700 billion very easily.
But I have a question for you.
What do you think it would cost to provide daily primary care to 700 million people? My bet is less than $1 billion or $2 billion a year. A year. Even in India's context, that's a very small part of what the Ministry of Health spends.
Yeah.
It'd be 10 or 20 cents per day at max.
Yeah. Separate question coming up later, what we do with all our teachers. but we'll handle that next. Okay. Let's flip back a little bit globally, because a lot of people here are immersed into our day in, day out in the AI world of India. If there were 3 important trends that you think are happening globally that are not as obvious to folks yet, but is going to hit them over the head in the next 12 months?
Well, it's very clear to me that people in India don't believe that the whole idea of IT services will go away. By 2030, there will be no such thing as IT services. There will be no such thing as BPO. Those are gone, right? There will be new kinds of services based on AI that Indian companies can form and bring to the rest of the world, because India has the best engineers, and the best talent and education and all that. So there are opportunities, but those will be very, very disruptive to the Indian economy. And I don't think people are paying enough attention. Just somebody at Infosys is hating me right now. But they have to make the transition.
And I've heard you say this before, and then you talk about the export for transformative services. What do you mean by that?
So AI knowledge, so there's a massive gap between AI capability. There's a blog that was just in the last 2 or 3 days. I was reading it on the plane last night, called "Something Big is Happening." It was an interesting blog, and I forget where he wrote it, on Twitter or someplace else. And within a day or two, this blog had 80 million views. Even entertainment products don't get that kind of readership. In a couple of days, 80 million views. I think I'd recommend people read that. So the magnitude of the change, some of these areas are not really recognized by people. So imagine the world had 10 to 100 times more scientists in material science, in biology, in energy or power. We will have that capability for near free. So what do we do with that? There's lots of social problems.
Sure.
You pay a construction worker the same you pay an oncologist who spent 10 years in medical school, because they have the same knowledge, which is the knowledge of the AI. So everybody's up-leveled to being a PhD in almost every subject that they can express in English language. That'll be the hard skill.
Yeah.
What do I want from an AI? The specification of need is the hard part. So it's a very different world. So, and by 2050, one way or another, that will happen.
But go back to the trends that are shaping tomorrow. So one is, you're saying IT services is in deep trouble. That's one entire industry that's going to, not. But I want to understand, with all the data center investments and all the downstream, memory and everything else with that, what is it that is getting built out that is going to impact us in 12 months later?
Well, obviously, I think compute usage will keep going up, and it should go up. And if you give 1 billion people free education, free medical services, or at least physician services, heart surgery is a little different. So there are things, but even, we are starting to design drugs for one patient.
Wow.
If they have a cancer, we can design a drug for one patient. It's not an approved drug. You don't even have a regulatory process, because you don't have a patient population. It's a population of one. So really amazing stuff. Why? The AI pops it out. It's better than a 5-year development process from one of the major pharma companies. So very interesting stuff happening. Look.
Has AI let you down?
What do you mean?
As in, you're such a proponent, it's going to change everything. You probably are an early adopter of almost any of these, including drug discovery. Has it let you down?
Um, Look, I take the long view. I think it was in the year 2000 I first said AI will have us redefine what it means to be human. I was vague enough and sounded weird enough that I didn't elaborate more. I was very clear on my view. But 2012, I wrote 2 blogs. Do we need doctors and do we need teachers? And I've been steadfast that's going to happen. And I think just this year, certain states in in the US, Utah as an example, letting AI prescribe medicine. That'll happen this year.
Wow.
You know, the American Medical Association doesn't love it because you don't have to see a doctor to get a prescription. It'll roll out very slowly in small increments, start with the less dangerous drugs first. So of the 2,000 drugs in the market, 500 have very few side effects. So you start with those, start with the simpler, less complex cases, but you go up in complexity very, very rapidly.
Let AI diagnose you and then maybe get a second opinion if you really care to.
So almost certainly, I only use AI for diagnosis. And if a doctor tells me something, I get a second opinion from my AI, including dosage and stuff. In half the cases, now I probably have the best doctors available.
Yeah.
I pay ungodly amount for a personal doctor. Almost always the AI refines the things and will usually result in a change of drugs.
Got it.
Like, that's consequential.
Okay, you got a dial in your hand. On this end is the entire Wild West as you're painting it out. Goodbye doctors, goodbye educators, goodbye IT services. And on this end is...
By the way, we should add the other business areas. So I talked about what I think can be government services.
Yeah, please.
Like medicine, doctors, tutors. I think legal services should be free so people have access to the law, because most people who are poor can't access their legal rights, and agronomy, so some of those. But entertainment will be free. It is so easy to have great entertainment. It should be free.
Yeah.
You know, TikTok without creators is entirely possible if you use Sora 2 today. They don't have enough chips to keep serving all the people who want to use it. But otherwise, it'd be all over. So entertainment will generally be free. We are seeing a lot of movies being made in 1-minute increments by AI.
Yeah.
So if entertainment is free, all these services are near free. And I think transportation will be near free. The hard area is something like housing, which I haven't seen yet how AI impacts, though I have plenty of ideas I'm working on. But these are fundamental human needs.
Right.
If they all become hugely lower cost, it's a pretty interesting world.
Okay, sorry, where I was going with that was the policymakers, the government's got to balance this, look after the citizens, give them a, call it a path in this new journey. And on the other end, we don't want to hold back and not restrain innovation. Like, on which parts do you sort of completely dial right? Which ones do you sort of be a little bit more careful?
Look, whenever there's large social change involved, there's large politics involved.
Yeah.
So the biggest issue to be managed very, very carefully is politics. My general view is the adoption of AI will be very different in different countries, because the politics are different in different countries. And politics, not a technical capability, will be the key determinant of what is adapted and what's not adapted.
Okay, give me an example in the US where they've...
Well, let me give you an idea. This is the silliest idea I wouldn't even have imagined it's possible. Germany does not have retail workers on Sundays. So you can't open a shop and work in retail in Germany on Sunday. They just banned robots from working on Sundays. Like, how ridiculous. That's an example.
That's a great example of what not to do. Okay.
I don't know the stupidity of whoever legislated that.
Right. Okay. Great. All right. I'm an investor too, and valuations are always challenging us in this new world. Sometimes we say to each other as early stage investors, our job is not to value companies as much as to pick the right companies, because if it's going to get big, it's going to not matter.
Yeah.
But the flip is you just get started and you throw a little bit of AI washing and you can get to hundreds of millions of dollars before you know it. Somebody walks into your boardroom or your IC, how are you able to tell what's real, what's not?
So we don't have an IC. So we are one of the venture firms that doesn't have an IC. We discuss every investment. We discuss it vehemently. But after that, any of the managing directors can make their own decision, and I will disagree with something, and they can still go ahead. That happens all the time.
We should try that, Rajan.
Well, you have to have confidence in your partners, and you want to encourage diversity of views. You know, at the academic level, everybody says you should have a diversity of views. But if one person's approving the investment,
Yeah.
or if you have consensus, you're going to go for mediocrity. Consensus always means you miss the outliers.
Yeah.
So we maximize our process for outliers. There's no way everybody would agree to invest in OpenAI in 2018, when it was a non-profit with no product plan, no revenue plan, no notion of when the technology would work. It took conviction. It took guts.
Big time. What did you see?
Very simply, in Sam and the team,
The
a
founder.
really great team. And I was pretty sure if when AI is successful, not if, when it's successful, it'd be massive. And it wouldn't matter if you made your return in 3 years or 15 years. The IRR would still be awesome.
That's awesome.
And I was right on the magnitude of the AI impact. Nobody would have imagined, companies worth near $1 trillion as startups, but it's entirely possible today. I'll give you my favorite story. This Indian company called Emergent. Anybody from Emergent here, by any chance?
They're all selling in the US.
Yeah, approached me just like 4 or 5 months ago, and they were a small company. They just launched their product I think in July or August. They just sent me a note yesterday. They're already up to $100 million run rate in a few months
Yeah.
in India for an Indian company. That's just stunning.
Yeah.
And it was a controversial company because, there's Replit and
Yes.
Cursor and Lovable and you name it.
Yes.
We bet on the founders. They're great founders. And it's going to be a massive success. Obviously, Sarvam has dominated in the model space.
Yeah, let's talk about that one. We're investors too. that would be a good one.
Well, you could easily have, say, Ambani or, one of the other big efforts with a lot more money behind it might be the successful one. That's not the case. It's great entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs like Prathush.
Yeah, amazing. Sorry, just one more example, if I may, of in your discussions, with your partners, when you guys are now looking at new AI investments to make beyond the founders, is there something structural? For example, in our IC, we talk about: do you believe in a multi-model world, or do you believe in a single model world? And if you believe in a multi-model world, then you have to take a set of certain directions.
So one of the things we have, which is pretty different from most other firms, is we are deeply technical, right? I can have a detailed discussion. My partners can have a very detailed discussion. In fact, one of my partners, who happens to be German and loves my robot joke about Germans, his self-driving car that he was the chief engineer of is in the Smithsonian Museum as the first self-driving car that achieved certain milestones. It won the DARPA competition. So we have that level of technical depth to be able to have those discussions.
Fair.
What do we believe?
Fair.
We've had intense discussions on robotics. We have 5 different approaches to robot models. I am my favorite, but we will bet on different things, and we will bet against each other. There's no competition in our firm because nobody gets paid on the investments they make. Nobody has a quota and nobody owns an investment. We have very unusual process. And if I say to somebody, let me take over your investment, they'll say, happily, I have too many other things to do. You can take my workload.
Okay, I have one question for founders, and maybe I can take one or two questions from there, and then we'll carry on. It's a question you've probably answered before, but it's hard to be a founder in this very fast-changing world right now in terms of...
Oh, it's so much easier.
Oh, tell me more. Tell me more.
Things didn't move quickly when I was a founder in 1980,
Fair.
my first startup.
Fair.
Or my second startup in 1982. Nobody believed in anybody under the age of 40 doing anything interesting. Like, it was age. People were very ageist. It was like, hey, people with funny accents don't wear suits and ties, right. And I've really not worn suits and ties. And so startups didn't have credibility. You always trusted IBM over a startup.
Right.
Now, you always trust a startup more than any IBM company.
They will say
if somebody's worked at Cisco for 15, 20 years, I consider them unemployable in the real economy. Anybody from Cisco or IBM or General Electric? Look, if you're at these big companies for 15, 20 years, you're so obsolete and so ossified.
Don't say anything. No.
No, GE fits in that category. So get out of there. Now, I have very strong views. You get ossified in big companies. You have to be at the edge of learning. I'm a big believer. I'm 71. I don't think I've ever learned as fast as I'm learning today.
That's
ever.
Incredible.
I'm literally doing years of learning every month in every area. I can talk to you about AI models in antibody design for a particular cancer or about fusion. Happy to talk about any of these topics because I'm always learning, and that's all I do.
That's incredible. I want to eat what
I
you
don't
eat.
talk to financial people. I don't ever talk at financial conferences. I talk to entrepreneurs.
Wonderful.
And anybody else, I mostly just end up insulting and they hate me. So
a question.
Hi, Vinod. My name is Fagun.
You can just,
Hi, Vinod. Thank you for sharing. Hi, my name is Fagun, and I'm from the UK. I studied medicine and neuroscience for years in England. And then I became a film...
Actually, good digital health startups in the UK.
Yeah. No, and so now thank you. And now I'm actually a filmmaker. I turned into films. I'm actually directing a documentary on AI. But my question to you is...
And I would bet if you asked an AI to write the script for a documentary about AI, it would do better.
Actually,
I'm very religious.
Yeah, I wrote my own, and then I asked AI, and yes, I merged them, right?
Okay,
Yeah,
that's a good
what
way
I did,
to
yeah.
start.
But my question to you is, so you mentioned we can make now 1-minute videos, right? So when do you think we can make a 90-minute, full-on 90-minute Hollywood movie, full lip sync, everything, like for one person in one room instead of like 100 people? What's
I
your
think
timeline?
it's in probably the next 2-3 years. That will almost certainly happen. And there was a filmmaker that just got panned because he used AI to build pieces of his film. I forget the name of the person who did it. But the question you have to ask is, do people want to watch a 2-hour movie? The answer is probably not. China is a good indicator. What is the fastest growing category of media that people watch? The number of hours in China today, 1-minute shorts.
But do you learn from 1 minute compared to, like, do you watch documentaries, 90-minute documentaries?
Mm-hmm.
You still do, right?
I don't, but...
Okay. Okay. Well, in terms of 1 minute,
I like to have ChatGPT watch it and summarize it for me.
Yeah.
going to keep moving. But this evening, there is a session at, I think, 6 to 9 p.m. at the Qutub Minar where they're talking film and AI. You will not believe what's going on in Bombay and how many studios are actually trying to create a Mahabharat just using AI and AI only. There's a lot of stuff going on. My friend Macon right at the back. You can scream, Macon.
All right. Thanks, Mohit. Hi, Vinod. What's in your experience has been the best way of young people learning being entrepreneurial?
You know, that's a hard question. First thing I say is, in the entrepreneurial world, you have to be really curious. And that's what I mean by I'm always learning. Any professor anywhere wants to come educate me on any topic, which they're often ready to, I will sit down with them over any business person, always, and say, educate me in your area. And it doesn't matter whether it's fusion or interplanetary science or geoscience. I will, I'll read a book on how you do carbon dating. And my kids make fun of me, reading of that. Or an encyclopedia of grasses. I have my favorite encyclopedia of grasses. I read about everything. So curiosity is number one to your question. I think the second most important question is agency. People who have agency. There's people who think that's how the world is, and there's people who create the world they want. You know, I joined IIT Delhi in 1971. There wasn't a single IIT with a programming class. So you couldn't really, people said, you can't get the administration to do something in 1971. We started a programming club with 4 people and 1 junior professor. We made programming happen. A few years later, I worked with Professor Gua at IIT Delhi in those days to make a biomedical engineering program happen. Why? We created the program. And we created programming because I was curious about it, and I had the agency to say, hey, let's do it. And we started working with IIT Delhi's Electrical Engineering Department and All India Institute of Medical Sciences. So agency is very important. And then, anybody who's done startups knows startups are really hard. You have to have persistence. You don't give up when you fail. I always say my willingness to fail is what allows me to succeed. I'll bang my head against the wall if I think something's a good idea till it succeeds. So persistence is really key. So those are 3 quick things.
That's great. He's doing a great job, by the way, with many Delhi schools and inserting entrepreneurship as part of the curriculum and seeing great results. We'll take one here.
Yeah. So thanks so much, Vinod. My question is about
The mic doesn't.
the future of universities and colleges in the area that you're talking about.
You know, so if you ask me 15 years from now, I don't see any need for universities and colleges. I think there will be other ways to learn that are much better on your time without the expense of a university and the time dedication. So I don't see a huge future for universities. In these universities with 100-year endowments, just they'll have their endowment left, not much else.
Universities also not just giving us learning from an education standpoint, also the social skills.
Yeah, that's a good use, but there's other ways to do that. I think in high school, that is the principal, or even in kindergarten, that's the principal purpose of school is socialization. And I think that's very important. Whether universities do that or are as needed for that function, I think by 18, most people are independent enough. There's other ways to socialize. For an 8 or 10-year-old kid, that's much harder. And so schools are important for that.
Is there any industry? You said housing was one that you were still trying to figure out how it gets impacted. How about healthcare? Is there any 1 or 2 industries that are more insulated?
First, every time I think of an industry, I find that somebody finds a way to obsolete it. Take minerals and mining. I thought, we need everybody in development, you need more steel, you need more copper, you need more lithium. Almost certainly, over the next 15 years, we will discover more minerals than we will consume. Why? Because AI is helping discover. You know, today, how do you find a copper deposit? It's on the surface in some part of the planet. You start digging and refining. If you could look a kilometer under the Earth's surface, which AI lets you do, and special kinds of sensors, and I can get into every kind of sensor that's used in geoscience, and I actually know it reasonably well. You'll find resources everywhere. So I don't view those things as a constraint. So,
Great answer. Yeah, we have an entrepreneur who cannot sit down. He really wants to ask the question.
I think
Go for it.
be persistent in what we do. So I think AI is like fire, electricity, and nuclear bombs, which change the course of humanity. And I think that you said one thing that you started it as an NGO to help healthcare, to make it. But you started as an NGO, non-profit something. But I think it will be profitable when we merge the healthcare and AI together. I am a doctor by myself. I did my residency in general medicine, and I can see it, and I am doing it.
I feel sorry for you 5 years from now. But keep going. Sorry. I just
Sorry, did you have a question or was there more for comment? Oh, okay. That's not here, not here.
I have the mic and a question.
Yes, yes.
And
go
it's
for
a non-technical question, Vinod. As a military brat, my name is Seema Chaturvedi. I run a venture fund, big bullish on the AI, but non-technical question. What are your views on the future of humanity because of the future of AI? What are all these people going to do when they have no jobs? What are your views on this? And especially if they don't have agency.
Okay, the question you have to ask is, will anybody need jobs? Right? Yeah, I think by 2050, it'll be very clear nobody needs jobs, because enough production of goods and services that are near free, you won't need jobs. Now, that's not to say people won't do jobs. People have much more time to spend with their kids, with their parents. So caregiving is a really interesting use. Competitions, the Winter Olympics is going on right now. People love competition. People love singing. People need art. If you're a painter, I used to tell kids, go do that, but make sure you don't need to need a house or to send your kids to college. Well, yeah, you'll be able to do any of those things, whether it's painting or surfing or skiing or Olympics, and dedicate your life to whatever passion you have, and the number of things people have passion for will explode. So let me give you my favorite example. If you have a 5 or 6 year old child, maybe a 10-year-old child, you say, go to school, study hard, get into a good college, you'll get a good job. In the future, you'll tell that kid, learn a passion and explore it. From age 5, they will know it's not about getting education isn't about getting a job, it's about developing curiosity and having passions. And I think humanity will generally pursue passions, not jobs.
But will that put food on the table?
I think all those, so I suspect the minimum level of services, healthcare, education, legal, food will be very cheap because of bipedal robots and not needing labor. And I can go into much detail. Housing is the one I mentioned. I have a trouble with saying how it gets to near free levels. But the basic level of services afforded everybody will be very high by governments that do this right by 2050. And this is only 25 years. It's in my working life. I hope I'm working at 75, 95. I hope it's in your working lives. Most of you are younger than me. I think we are looking at a very different world now. Very unpredictable how the path is from here to there. People will object to unemployment and lots of other things and social causes. So that's why I say politics will play a role, especially in democratic countries. And I think China has a huge advantage there.
Last question, please.
What are your thoughts, Vinod, on AI potentially starting a nuclear war? And if yes, if it's possible, is there a way to protect against it?
I'm much more worried about Trump than AI.
Now that is the final word, really. I have the mic. Are we actually done? So we.
Yes, unless you have one last
Or I
question.
have one last question. Prediction. Which year, which vintage do you think AGI actually becomes a reality? Best of your knowledge.
Well, so it depends on how you define AGI. People keep moving the goal post. I define AGI very specifically as when AI can do 80% of all the jobs that have economic value. So whether you're a structural engineer, a farm worker, assembly line worker, a doctor, an accountant, if AI can do 80% of all jobs, that's AGI. I think we're there in the next 2 years.
Wow.
All right. Awesome.
All right, thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you, Mohit.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vinod.
Thanks, Vinod.
We're not going to do any more sessions. We're out of time. But why don't we all take a picture? Pratyush, Sharad, just 1 second. Come. We should do a picture with some of the other folks. All right. I'll find a way to get you out of here. Let's do that. Come this way.
It's the automobile companies which are blocking it because we don't need so many ownerships. And Uber has already made a dent. Rapido is making strides.